Greetings from the World Ethanol Biofuels Conference in Brussels. I'm joined by Andrea Kent from Greenfield Global. How are you doing, Andrea?
Really great. Thanks so much for having me.
Sure. So you're from Canada. I thought we'd talk a little bit about Canada's policies. If you look at Canada's clean fuel standard, what's the level of opportunity that presents for the biofuels industry?
Absolutely. I think, it's an exciting time to consider the Canadian policy landscape. We have a national dialogue on carbon pricing right now. We have some jurisdictions that are looking at increasing their regional policies. And then we have this really ambitious national clean fuel standard. So it's seeking to reduce emissions across all of industry. And I think that that's really the point of differentiation. We're not just looking at transportation, which is, of course, a huge, tricky sector to decarbonize, but we're really looking across all of industry as a whole. So it's ambitious, and I think that, where there's great opportunity, there's great challenges, but the success really can be in the details. So I think what you're looking at Canada is seeking to accelerate decarbonizing transportation, building off that momentum, carrying it over into the industrial sector, and really creating a viable low carbon market in the process. So it has to attack consumer behavior, it has to change that, it has to come up with a new economy that's going to kind of incentivize and support that transition to low carbon fuels across all sectors. And then of course too, I think that there's a real component of global leadership that a lot of people in Canada are proud of right now for biting all of this off. You don't want to lose progress to date though. And a lot of positive reductions in GHG emissions have already come out of transportation because of biofuels mandates. So the challenge, the other side of the coin, is how do you continue to get those reliable and grow those reliable reductions from transportation biofuels without compromising the longer term?
Challenges specific to Canada, would you say? Or?
I think, looking at what's specific to Canada is you have a really, really ambitious national government right now, and you have some, provinces that are, kind of coming up in their election cycle, and the approach might be a little bit different. I think that what everybody wants to do is create jobs while they decarbonize, not deindustrialize. So looking at the Canadian challenges, it's going to be how do these regulations end up being a complement and kind of a mosaic across the country and not a patchwork? Because that's not going to work for consumers or producers, whether you're a fossil fuel producer or you're an ethanol producer. And that's kind of where the policy challenges are really focused right now.
And you've said it's not all about road transportation, but road transportation is definitely a big part. Could you say a little bit more about where you see road transportation in Canada heading in, say, the next 10 years, what it will look like
Yeah,
then?
I think a lot of people would agree with me here that 10 years down the road, pun intended, it needs to be a mix. Right? So I think you're absolutely going to see an increase in liquid transportation fuels that are lower carbon. I think you're going to see that on road transportation. You're going to have to see it in heavy duty. There's aviation and other modes that are especially difficult to decarbonize. All of those have to be addressed. I think you're going to see electrification. I think that it's not either or. And, the real kind of delicate dance that has to be done with industry and with governments right now is that there is no silver bullet. You can't be too fixated on a particular pathway or compliance mechanism or, even a mode. You really have to look at it in its entirety, and you have to find ways that the most practical and immediate things like biofuels and ethanol can be accelerated while we wait for those longer term solutions like electrification to come online. Canada is a vast country with a lot of seasons and a lot of geography as well too. So it works in, where I'm from, an urban center in Ontario is not going to work for, the Great White North. So those are the other considerations that have to come in.
So we've talked a lot about the big picture. Could you maybe explain for me where Greenfield Global fits into this, and particularly about your co-product strategy, how important that is for your business model?
Well, I think anybody who follows the commodity markets right now and you look at the inputs for ethanol in Canada is absolutely a price taker. When it comes to ethanol production is riding the margins right now, and they're very thin. So that's when co-product streams like DDGs and feeding into the animal feed market really kind of stabilize. And that allows you to kind of ride those peaks and valleys that you'll see in the market for ethanol. It also it creates this technology that you can continually leverage and continually build on as well. So co-products, traditionally we talked about distillers grains that are often very much associated with corn ethanol, but we also do a lot of our own R&D, and we're looking at things like anaerobic digestion and how do we get to methanol, and how do we get to biogas, and even looking at some things like hydrogen fuel cell technology, right? So I think that the way that we approach and think about co-products is going to be even more robust going forward, and an even bigger part of kind of not only just stabilizing the current economics around ethanol, but really turning it into an origin for some of those other fuel mixes that we're going to need. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your insights, Andrea.
Oh, great. No, it's a real pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.